Medfield, and welcome to the newest edition of Medfield People. I have a man here that I don't know how many of you know. He's lived in town for a good while. His name is Kevin, and he'll tell you all about his name and his location and what he does. He's the music. I call him the music man.
The music man. Yes, I'm a music teacher in Medfield and surrounding towns, and musician.
And your last name is?
Kevin Shurtleff.
S-U-R-T.
S-H-U-R-T-L-E-F-F.
And it is what
It is, well, it's Old English, and we were just discussing this. It comes from Shire Cliff, so it's kind of corrupted from Shire Cliff, out in the middle of England, near York, I believe. So, and the first Shurtleff came over in 1634 to Plymouth. So we're all all the Shurtleffs in America are descendants from this one guy. So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
it really is. And
yeah.
There's always been one generation in the United States.
It seems that way. I think, yeah, they all are descended from this one guy, as far as we can tell. So it's pretty interesting.
Wow. And how long have you lived here in Medfield?
I want to say 2003, maybe. We moved here. Yeah.
Dozen years plus.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
You have a wife and two kids,
Wife
two boys.
And two boys. Yeah, two middle schoolers over at Blake. Yeah.
But maybe we can tell people why I call you the music man.
The music man, I teach private music lessons here in Medfield and surrounding towns and everything like that. I teach drums, guitar, bass guitar, piano, and then a few other things here or there. So.
And how do people reach you?
Most of the time, well, I have a flyer up at Park Street Books. So that's the only place that I've done advertising for years and years, because most of my clients get referred by word of mouth, which is great. But Jim James over at Park Street Books has been kind enough to keep a flyer up for me for years, so I get a lot of new referrals from over there. So maybe you'll have to just pop into Park Street Books, and if you're interested in music lessons, and talk to Jim, he'll point you in the right direction.
Do you want to hear how I learned how to play the piano?
Sure.
My father was a dentist, and there was an old lady named Miss O'Hara who had very bad teeth, and she was a music teacher. And she hated her to have her teeth done. So my father made a deal. If she taught my sister and me piano lessons for a while, she would get her teeth all fixed. And we hated it. My sister was better than I. I can still play the three keys, 10 young turkeys in a row. You know that one? Marching off to Buffalo. I can still play that. That's all I can play after like 4 years on the piano.
Well, that's something, though. How are her teeth?
I have to say she was about 20 or 30 years older than I, so they're probably no longer in use. But have you taught people like that don't especially want to take it, their parents want them to take it?
Yeah, I think there's a different, certainly a spectrum, but I think, you know, whether it's young kids, middle schoolers, high school, or even adults, they have to want to do it. So if the parents want them to do it and the kid or student doesn't want them to do it, it's not going to work. You know, you can try it, but it's not going to work. So they have to want to do it, and by themselves to some extent, certainly. And I think part of my job is to make sure that it's fun, that they're having a good time.
That is really important.
You know, and that it's also, I think, about learning to develop a love for music and listening to music as well as playing music, because in many ways, being able to be a good listener of music is equally as important as playing an instrument, you know. And just, I think that kind of fostering that love for music and listening and awareness of music goes a long way too. So but like I said, it's got to be fun. It can't be something where they feel like it's another activity that they're being carted off to, you know, because that's, you know. So I just that's my job. I try to make it fun while learning and kind of like a good, you know, fostering a good musical environment. So.
Well, I know you went to the Berkeley School as an older person, but as a little kid when you learned to play, what did you learn to play first?
I learned to play drums. That was this is a great story. You know, I grew up listening to my parents' Beatles records and Stones and CCR and you know, and I was, you know, a kid growing up in the 70s, and one of my favorite bands at the time was Kiss, the band Kiss, big rock band. And so I was about 10 when they offered a year of free lessons in elementary school, and they offered clarinet, violin, or drums.
Okay.
Well, I thought they said drums. They said drum.
Oh.
Singular. And so since no one in KISS played violin or clarinet, I said, I've got to play the drums. And I envisioned like huge drum sets and screaming fans and everything. And I was stuck on the snare drum for 2 years. So I didn't, but I stuck with it.
Did you enjoy it at all?
I did enjoy it. Yes, I did enjoy it. I wasn't, you know, I didn't really catch fire with it till a couple years later when I got a drum set. And then a few years after that, I kind of absolutely knew that I wanted to be a musician, you know. So so it's good. But the early years, yeah, I like to tell that story, that if it wasn't for, you know,
the free
KISS and the fact that there was no violin or clarinet player in KISS, that's why I became a drummer. So.
And after you learned the drum, what did you learn next?
Next, I would, so I started drums around 9 or 10, and then I was playing in bands with people in high school. So I, just by being around, like writing songs and rehearsing songs and playing, you kind of learn a little bit about the other instruments that you're playing with. So I kind of picked up a bass and taught myself where the notes were, and then I'd start to like figure things out, little bits of songs, and then my bandmates would teach me, you know, taught me my first few chords on the guitar, and then they teach you a Jimi Hendrix song, and then that's where you begin, and you kind of go from there. So the bass and guitar were second and third instruments right there. So.
And when did piano come?
Around the same time I started studying music theory in my high school, and it was good to have a keyboard to kind of sketch out things that you're studying as far as harmony and theory. So I started to get, and then I started taking a little bit of piano lessons in there, and then once again you just kind of learn a little bit more, and you also learn how all these instruments are connected. So if you can play a song on the guitar, then you start to figure out how you can just translate it and play it on the piano as well, and kind of go from there. And I had to, at Berkeley, I was a music ed major, and you have to do 2 full years of piano as a minimum. So you have to kind of really bring your skill level up to, you know, a proficient level for them to deem you a music educator. So continued there, and I still play today. I don't, you know, I enjoy more sitting down and playing songs that I like, rather than, you know, I'm not practicing tons of stuff on the piano these days, but I certainly love to sit down and play, teach myself new songs, learn new songs, whatever. So.
Well, so you teach part-time, you play part-time.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I play. I still have played, you know, for years since I was, like I said, in high school, playing, working as a professional musician, mostly as a sideman, and like most, you know, musicians do, you kind of go where the work is, where the gig is, and so that can be anywhere and everywhere, and you know, and it's fun. It's certainly move around. You go a bunch of different places, and that's great. And then teaching, I teach, you know, a fairly good schedule these days. So.
And you go to people's houses?
I do. I travel. That's the one, you know, I think unique thing about what I do is I do travel to people's houses. So that can be, you know, certainly convenient. It's one less place that you have to think about getting someone to, especially,
right.
You know, at 5:30 in downtown Medfield. It's like a log jam on.
Yes, it is.
So, you know, it could take you half an hour to get from one part of the city to the other at that time. So, yes, I do travel to people's houses. And
so now mostly you teach, what do you teach mostly now? Piano, drums, or both?
I would say guitar.
Oh, guitar, okay.
Followed by piano, and then and then drums, and then bass. So most people want to play the guitar. So I'm trying to encourage more bass players. So, you know, there are very few bass players. So if you play bass, you'll have more opportunities. And so.
Do you play the Irish guitar too?
Well, I play the Irish drum.
Okay.
I can play. I have been going to Irish sessions for years, which is, an Irish session is just a group of musicians sitting in the corner of a pub playing Irish tunes, and I've done that since my early 20s, and very much enjoyed that, playing boron, which is the Irish drum. I play mandolin a little bit, and certainly guitar you can sit in and play fairly easily with the Irish stuff. So.
You could, not me.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of the same chords over and over. You just got to know which ones to play where, and that after a while you get better at doing that. So.
And that's how you made a lot of your contacts, doing that?
Not doing the Irish thing, so to speak, but it's just one of many different kind of playing opportunities that I've enjoyed doing. So the contacts, I think, are just from, you know, like I said, word of mouth and meeting people and knowing people and you know, thankfully people still want music lessons for their kids, so they're, you know, will kind of seek that out. So.
Do you go to the symphony at all?
You know what? I don't go. I should more. I certainly enjoy listening to classical music. I listen to CRB probably more than anything on the radio. No, but I do try to go to different types of live performances when I can. Certainly, all different genres and everything. Do you go to the symphony or?
I used to as a kid. We used to go on Saturdays to the Philadelphia Orchestra. And my favorite memory of that is I can't remember. I was 10 or 11. I went with my cousins to Driscoll's, and we all went down together, and with my sister. And for some reason, the Eugene Ormandy, who was the conductor, said, "Is there anybody out there today that has a birthday?" It actually was my real birthday. I was like screaming. I ran up. There were 3 of us that had our birthday. At least, I don't know whether the others lied or not, but I was telling the truth. And we ran up there. My mother and dad were listening at home, and they heard my name announced. They went, "Oh, I was screaming," she said later. And then the whole audience at the orchestra played Happy Birthday, and the whole audience sang. I'll never forget that. It was amazing. But we used to go, used to have a half price on Saturdays once a month for kids. And it was a great incentive.
Yeah, yeah.
I still like the sound. I have to admit, I still like the sound. I couldn't make it myself, but. And how about the high school band? Have you listened to that at all?
Absolutely. Both of my boys are in the jazz band at the middle school, so we have certainly been in the jazz nights and seen that, and seen the jazz band at the high school and everything. I think the music program in Medfield is certainly, I think a lot of people know, is an outstanding program, and I think it's for a relatively small town to have such a good program is really something else, and that obviously speaks to the music teachers in the schools.
Yeah, I think
They're
it
fantastic,
does too.
And I think we're very lucky to have such great teachers and such a great program in the schools and support for the music program. It's great.
Yeah, I love to go when they have their concerts at the school. I think it's dynamite to go.
Yeah.
And they're crowded. People like it.
Yeah.
People really like to go.
Yeah.
Not just because they have a child in the band, but because they just like the sound. It's so good.
Yeah.
Really. The young man that lived across the street from us was head of the jazz band for a long time. And they would practice at his house on Saturdays. And I'd be out hanging up my laundry, and I could hear the jazz band floating across the street. I mean, what more could you ask?
Yeah.
Whoa, get them up. No, it was great. But it's a marvelous sound. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Just quite a program in Medfield. Very lucky to have it. So.
Do you like jazz a lot?
I do some. I'm certainly more of a pop and rock guy. Certainly, like I said, I come from more of the, like I said, the Beatles, and then huge Led Zeppelin fan, and more of a lot of the British rock and stuff. So I certainly listen to some jazz, but I would not certainly call myself well versed in a lot of the stuff as some people are. And even though I went to Berkeley, and Berkeley's a jazz school and everything, I still would kind of move towards putting on a Beatles record or something like that. But.
That's not an easy school to get into, is it?
No. Especially now, I think it's gotten even more competitive. So it's good that I got in.
Did you apply someplace else, or just you had your fingers crossed and hoping you get into Berkeley?
I applied to 2 other schools in Boston, and but I got into both of them. But I knew that I was wanting to do music, and it was both my parents were and still are in education, and it was very important to them that I got a college degree instead of just getting out of high school and hitting the road or something like that. So, and I totally respected that and agreed with that. So, I knew it was that was where I wanted to go and study music. So,
on a typical week, like how many days a week will you be out teaching different things?
Could be 7 days a week. Sometimes I teach on Sundays and Saturdays, definitely. It's usually not full days on Saturdays and Sundays, but I teach Monday through Friday, anywhere from 5 to 7 lessons a day. So somewhere in the ballpark of 30, 35 lessons a week. So.
Oh my God! So there's more drums and piano.
More piano and guitar.
Oh,
guitar is
okay.
definitely the most popular. So.
I never tried it. I should have brought one along. You could have showed me right here.
Started you off with your first lesson.
It would take a long time. One lesson would not do it, believe me.
How much time do we have to tape?
You have a year? So
Part
the guitar is that popular. That's great.
Yeah, it is. I think it's one of the most accessible instruments for kids too. You know, like we all remember the magazines. You know, years ago, that in the back, the advertisements in the back of the magazines that say, "Learn to play guitar in 6 weeks." Well,
yeah.
You can be strumming along and playing along to songs and making decent sound within a few short weeks. You know, so it's not like you have to really work hard to create a decent sound. So that I think is one of the things that draws people to the guitar. And you know, it's obvious it's a iconic instrument in American and Western culture.
I think it is too. So. Yeah, even I would think so. So what do you listen to at home? Do you have CDs for all kinds of things?
Yeah, all kinds of different stuff. Really, like I said, I'm oftentimes like learning new songs to teach people, or I'll go back and listen to music that I've haven't heard in 25 years or something like that. So really kind of all kinds of stuff. I can listen, at home I can listen to, like I said, we can put on Sgt. Pepper by the Beatles and listen to the whole record, which is great. I've got my kids into those records. I think they have a love and a respect for that. I can put on, you know, the Tallis Scholars, which is a fantastic choral group from England, doing primarily music of Thomas Tallis, who's one of the biggest English choral songwriters. You know, and anything and everything in between, really. You know, so we could put on, you know, we love Vince Guaraldi, who did the music for Charlie Brown, all the Charlie Brown stuff. You know, and anything and everything in between. You know.
So do you have music on in your house most of the time?
A lot of the times, yeah. And if not, I'm usually singing around the house or yelling or something.
How good's your singing voice?
Well, you know, it's okay. I wasn't probably, you know, it's not my primary instrument, but I like to think that, you know, it's all about expression. You know, I love the way that Keith Richards sings. I think he's got a lot of soul in his voice, and he might not be everyone's cup of tea, but
I think he's good too.
Yeah. So, you know, I think it's more important is that you're enjoying expressing yourself, and who cares what anyone thinks about how you sound. So.
Yeah, some of my kids were actually reasonably good, and they were in the school plays, etc. But one of my sons, David, had a voice like a foghorn, and he loved to sing. So whenever they had...
I hope David's not watching.
No, he just went down to North Carolina yesterday, so I'm safe. But he always liked to be right in the middle in front of the microphone, and the teachers would try and find a way to get him off to the side because you would be out in the audience, and the voice you would hear the most was that voice. We still laugh about it. And now he has a joke when it's somebody's birthday. He gets his 5 kids and his wife, and they all sing happy birthday to us. None of them can sing either. So I still have this one saved on my machine at home. It doesn't stay forever, but whenever I feel stupid or lonely, I just turn it on and play happy birthday again with all those awful voices. But they love it. But they love singing it.
That's what it's about right there.
You're right.
Absolutely.
It really is. Really is. So that's your favorite thing, is it just enjoying the sound and
Yeah, and I think, you know, music is such an important part to everyone's life, and I think if you, most people can look back and think of you know, a time in their life, especially like teens, when music is really such an important part, can be an important part of your life, and that will stay, you know, stay with people forever, and you know, it's just a very powerful thing and something to be enjoyed and shared and everything like that. So I'm lucky that I get to do music every day and make a living doing it. So, you know.
One of my sons was more into sports and young ladies in high school, but his best friend was very into the music program, especially the concerts and the plays. And the last year, senior year, he got the whole gang to agree to go out in a play and sing. It was just singing operetta.
Wow.
And my son still remembered, he was thinking, we are stupid to do this, it's going to be the worst thing we've ever done. they had a party at our house after the play, after it was over, the musical was over. And the boys agreed that was the most fun they have ever had, and why the heck hadn't they done it sooner?
Yeah.
I still remember that.
Yep. Yep.
And they never would have thought, if David Babalsek hadn't dragged them into it, they never would have done it. And they really, really enjoyed it. They still remember it.
Yeah, I think whenever you're involved with a production like that, whether it's theater or music, especially when there's so many people coming together to make it work like that, including everyone that does lighting and design and stage, you know, there's certainly a kind of an emptiness after the last show. You feel like, wow, it's all done, it's completed, we've worked up to it, and it's such a build-up. But you remember that feeling, how great it was for the rest of your life, certainly.
Because I was in musicals in high school, and I thought it was wonderful. I really did.
Yeah.
I really did. I think it's a great thing. And the high school does great shows all the time. They do. And the grammar schools, at Dale Streets and Wheelock, they all do little concerts. I think it's terrific. Wow, so the best thing in your life, other than your wife and your 2 kids, is music?
I would say so, yeah. Family, wonderful, blessed to have just an awesome family, and having great music and friends, and living in a great town. So. And
how do people reach you, Kevin? Can you give them your phone number?
I can give my phone number is 508-359-1175.
1175.
1175, and I'm in the local phone book. And I'm, once again, if you're at Park Street Books and shopping, you can ask Jim James, and he'll point out where my flyer is if you want to get further contact. So.
That's great. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I think I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. And thank you, people out front, for watching. I really appreciate your watching, Medfield people. And if anybody has any ideas for somebody with a different occupation, give me a call or send me an email at annmedfield@verizon.net, and we'll get them scheduled and get them done. But thank you very much, Kevin. I really appreciate this.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great.
The preceding was a production of Medfield TV.